Let me listen to that back. It's Mike and Mo and we just reading, baby. Ain't no interpretations, we just keep it even, baby. Yeah, give us a listen if you feeling lazy, or if you ain't been in the mood for communing lately. Yeah, we gon' keep it 100 as we going through these words. Our creator wouldn't want us to treat him like a curb, brushed off like a street sweeper. Kaden Park in Miami, without him we get heat fever. Goal is precision. We need a ski teacher, connection more reliable than 96.3 beepers coming to you live. Call us a heat seeker, Jeepers creepers couldn't be more curious than these peepers. We only reading a book, come take a listen to us. We only reading a book, creator gave it to us. We only reading a book, no we don't come in bitter. If you ever want to see us live, we know where to look. We only reading a book, come take a listen to us. We only reading a book, creator gave it to us. We only reading a book, no we don't come in bitter. If you ever want to see us live, we know where to look.
يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه وإذا أظلم عليهم قاموا ولو شاء الله لذهب بسمعهم وأبصارهم إن الله على كل شيء قدير.
The lightning almost snatches away their sight. Every time it lights the way for them, they walk therein. But when darkness comes over them, they stand still. And if Allah had willed, He could have taken away their hearing and their sight. Indeed, Allah is over all things competent.
Context matters. Hey, the storm, which is given, so the light snatches away almost everything. You mentioned that, okay. Every time they walk away from the light, and Allah, if Allah had willed, He could have taken away of their hearing and sight. So this is saying these people in the storm can be saved. The wording is very important here. So He almost could have. He's saying, hey, warning them, like say, hey, we could have just said, to show how merciful He is. He said, hey, we could have taken your sight away immediately, which is what they said in the last one. Context matters. We could have. Allah could have done that, but He didn't because He thinks you have potential to be saved. Or do you think that's not it?
Let me ask you a question. What does it mean to have your ears sealed and your eyes veiled?
Because veiled, definitely. When I think of veil, right, I think of it's like you need glasses, right? Like you can still see, you can still make out things slightly, but you just need more clarity, kind of thing. For a veil, right? But the ear is definitely, they're trying to portray that, hey, yeah, you can't hear if it's plugged. You can't hear.
I can agree with both of those. I probably would have said for veil, I probably would have said completely blind, but I will lean into yours because a veil usually is kind of like sheer. You can see through it.
I'm not going to lie, I understand you're trying to be neutral here, but if we're going off context, when your ears are plugged, the intention is that you're not going to see. So veil, we have to assume, because he's trying to show that, hey, they're not going to be able to come back from that. And then go on.
So is this a different group of people then? Or are the people who have their ears sealed and their eyes veiled the people who also have the fire put out that won't return back to the past? And then
I definitely think he's talking about the two extremes. The two definitely still talking about two groups of people that can be saved and cannot.
Okay, so we on that.
I think we can still say that.
I was stuck there for a second because
we can both agree that is a very extreme form of punishment. To be like, hey, if you disbelieve, you're not allowed to come back to the past, despite them not doing anything wrong. It's just them disbelieving. And I was thinking that this is spiritual at first, but then it says in this next one, the one that you just read, that Allah could have took their senses, could have took their sight and their hearing. But in that one before though that we read on the other page, it says that their ears are sealed, their eyes are veiled, and there was. So I think you're still talking about. I think he's still talking about the people with the torch and like how they can't come back.
Yeah.
Because they're completely blind now.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely there's no description of who those people are, but we know they exist now, somewhere from what we see.
Does Allah physically make people blind and deaf?
I think it's a.
I thought it was too at first.
I can't give you an answer because it's definitely going to sound biased, whatever I say.
Yeah. Because I'm just trying to like put it into context.
I might not understand. I might never
everything.
understand this, bro. Like this is really great because it's like we might come back to this and find an answer, which is what I.
I think at this period right here it stops the allegory.
Okay.
The lightning almost snatches away their sight. Every time it lights the way for them, they walk therein. But when darkness comes over him, they stand still.
So they have to give into it. So it sounds like they have to give into it in order for it to work.
And if Allah had willed, He could have taken away their hearing and their sight. If He willed. Now this is the second group of people that can return to the path. But the first group of people that can't return to the path, it says that He sealed their ears and veiled their eyes. So is He physically doing this to people? Because He said He could physically do it to these people, but didn't do it. So is He physically
So you think
doing
He actually went out of His way to do it?
I was thinking it was spiritual at first until this came up and I started thinking about it. I thought it was spiritual.
That's what I'm saying. There are people that are just predestined for hell, it sounds like. That we can't.
Yeah.
But we can't. But the thing is, we can save these people that are in the storm, but we can't. The problem is, we can't tell. And it being fair, it makes. And you're right with the fairness thing. I don't see how rigging the game to where they can't win.
You said it, bro. Rigging the game, bro. They can't see or hear.
Because you could be aware of Allah and still be blind and still be deaf, right? And because you don't understand, because you're physically not able to understand, you might reject Him automatically. Because your emotions are already in that place.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that could be a category of people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's still a category. I think they're probably one of the people in that category. So that could definitely be a thing.
I feel that.
Of course. So you're not entirely wrong, which is
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Where were we?
Where are we right now? I think we was on this next one.
Where are we?
He had just read this one.
O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and knows before you that you may become righteous. So he's saying, because they conveniently said that right after this, people who are in the storm could still be there because if God wanted you to be completely blind, but He still makes people like that. So there's definitely a category of things where there are people that cannot be saved whatsoever, and then there are people that are just in a storm trying to navigate through the storm.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he doesn't distinct between those two people, which is where the nuance comes in. He doesn't distinctively say, hey, there are going to be people that are never going to... You can't tell the difference between the two people. There's no definitive way to tell. But there's definitely a category of people that can be saved, which is relieving, but at the same time, it's like, okay...
it's relieving, but it's a weird game of tennis.
It's definitely a weird game, yeah.
Competent.
What I don't like is, he assumes that, hey, this is the right path, being competency, but let's say for the sake of clarity, that it's been proven that this is the right path, right? You know what I mean? It's definitely still biased on his end, saying, hey, you're foolish. No, you're foolish.
That's tough. I mean, it makes sense because you get rewarded for what you put out, but that's hard though, especially in a life that's set up for us to be so focused on building ourselves up, being comfortable, building generational wealth. How much can I really focus on racking up good points?
I do think the point system is very unfair. It's like, you're right. So the point system is based off how much time you have to dedicate to God.
Yeah.
But I think I want to believe that God rewards your effort if you're still going for the points, that you're going to be rewarded for that. Tough love, man. He's very like. What the thing is, right? He wants tough love, and He's going to purposefully blind you so there's no saving those people. But He's going to send you to hell if you are one of those people. But you can't help being one of those people, which is kind of weird to me. And that's definitely something where it sparks debate. And I think it's going to be interesting to read the Bible and see what they say about this. They do say they're very similar in nature, from what people have told me. Okay, so he who made you.
الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء.
I might have been one of those people, because it's like, hey, I might have been. It seems like I might be in the storm right now. I'm gonna put myself in that category, because if I were a disbeliever, I wouldn't be able to even question or doubt anything, which makes sense why people say, oh yeah, if you doubt, that means you're still a believer, because there's still hope for you to become a believer. I don't like the fact that he's like, oh, you should worship him because of how great he is. This is what my mom said. Hey, why aren't you thankful for someone who's given you everything? You need to believe him because he's giving you everything, kind of thing. This is definitely in the realm of manipulation, which is why this is definitely something that could definitely turn me off, which I'm still going to try to be biased. But it does sound like he's definitely in that, leaning towards that, but it's not finished. So let's see what he says. This is just what I hear.
يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون.
He who made for you the earth a bed spread out and the sky a ceiling, and sent down from the sky rain, and brought forth thereby fruits as provision for you. So do not attribute to Allah equals, while you know that there is nothing similar to him.
That's really interesting. Why you think they said that?
Spiritual people say that you can be closer to God in terms of you can become on a God-like frequency. You're not equal to God, but you're close. There's no what I find fascinating is that as long as you're not equal to God, you can get very close. From what he's saying, you can't be equal to him at all, but you can get very close to there if you develop yourself enough. No. This is definitely biased. From a spiritualist, because I definitely say that this is probably where people got like, hey, you can't meditate and stuff because it might be bad. But as long as you're not equal to him, right?
No,
it is fascinating.
It is in brackets. I'm not sure what the brackets mean, but it says
that there is nothing similar to
him.
Okay, so that's
like not even close to it.
That's true. So that definitely does. I can definitely see how, hey, being on a godlike frequency is a sin.
It doesn't say that it's
a sin, or like
say that it's a sin.
You cannot reach that status.
It says do not attribute, but it also says do not try to save the disbelievers. It doesn't say that it's a sin, so
oh yeah.
Can you attribute?
So you do not attribute Allah to equals. So you do not compare him to anything that's tangible, which makes sense. It's like, hey, God is a completely separate being, which makes sense from what I've been hearing about what Allah is. That definitely makes sense. That there is nothing similar to him. So what is the extent of that similarity? Does that mean if you think, as long as you don't think you're similar to God, you just think that you could definitely elevate to a frequency to where...
What is God that we are not? It says that God, it described God in the beginning. I think we can be those things to an extent, like all loving, all benevolent, caring. We can be benevolent, we can be loving, we can be caring. Not all benevolent, not all loving, not all caring. But I think that when it says similar, it means nobody can come close to the level of being all anything. You just have to be a part of whatever
But it doesn't. So, but the thing is, saying that meditation and stuff and elevating your frequency is what doesn't make sense to me is they say it's a sin, but it doesn't definitively say, hey, as long as you're not similar to him, it's not a sin. You know what I mean? You just have. So if you are in a vein that's still very high, just not similar to where God is in highness, I'm with manifestation and stuff, right? I really hope it gets to this. If you build a mosque,
there you go.
Wait, where is it?
I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
Because that's the difference between humans and God. The fact that God, or Allah, can create out of nothing. We can't do that. And that's what the idea of manifestation
So we
is.
can never be similar to God anyway, which makes sense. So even if we try to elevate our frequency to a God-like frequency, we still can't be similar to him
But
because we can't create things out of nothing.
actual spiritualists and I think it's Hindus, whoever, Nirvana and Enlightenment. So it's Hindus and Buddhists. Spiritualists, Hindus and Buddhists, which is spiritualists take from them anyway. They believe that if you meditate enough, if you get your frequency high enough, if the
That you can
Kundalini spirit
become
go
a
all
God
the way,
kind of thing.
exactly, or you get reconnected with whatever God is, the oneness is, Brahma, the one spirit that's up there by itself. So they have this belief system where they will become God, or at least similar to it. So we can already kind of like rule them out based on what this is.
Yeah, those are definitely extreme people. But I think that they're trying to become similar to God. If your intention isn't to become God, I think you're safe then. Because you're not trying. If you're not trying to be similar to God, similar to a God, you're just trying to become someone who can. We want to survive. We want money. We want things, right? I don't think you need to become a God necessarily to get those things, which is the intention of manifestation, the intention of all these things.
That's
You
why,
know what I'm saying?
That's why Buddhism teaches separation. They sell all of their stuff and they live on nothing. That's why you see Buddhist monks in temples. They then sold all their stuff and moved to the temple so that they can reach nirvana. And same thing with Hindus. I mean, they have like a system where they think certain things are necessary, but they try not to be materialistic because they know they're not going to be able to take it to their next life and then whatever enlightenment is.
Of course. Definitely interesting, but we can say that whether or not it's against manifestation, as long as you're not trying to become similar to a God, you're not trying to become a God, then definitely I don't think he's saying that it's necessarily wrong to manifest. From what we're saying.
What is manifestation? Manifestation is to create out of nothing.
Is it?
Yes. It's to use your mind to focus on the things that you want so that they come to you. Whether that be
but don't you have to take
somebody,
physical... Here's my question then. Don't you still have to take physical actions to become those things? You're not necessarily coming out of nothing because you still have to take physical actions that come from something physical. Manifestation is, hey, I think about this.
How did Allah create the world? Did he use actions? It's either his words or his right hand. But to speak is the action, and to form with your hand is action.
Also an action.
Yeah. So creation at some level takes action.
Yes.
For you to feel like you can create your future, you can create your destiny, you can create whatever comes towards you, is creation. That's what manifestation is.
Now what I'm asking is, yes, but you're not trying to be similar to God. Maybe you are subconsciously. Maybe there are people that are trying to become God. This is the question.
Is there anything besides creation that God can do that we can?
Besides creation that God can do that we can't?
Because that's what I was saying when you brought up manifestation. I said that's the only thing.
You can create something out of nothing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that God can do that we can't do, and that's what manifestation tries to do. But tell me, what is it besides creation that God can do?
I'm trying to think.
Take your time.
We're definitely mortal, right? So, by definition, right, he can be immortal. He is immortal. He can never die. We can.
Okay.
So, by that definition, if we are mortal beings, as long as we don't intend to become immortal, I don't think it's a sin to want things. And plus, like I said, He rewards us for doing physical things that give us to heaven. But you have to obviously create a mosque out of nothing. If you create a mosque, you can't do that?
That's not creation.
It's not creation?
That's manipulation.
So
Because
manipulation is
God already put the things here for us to use, like
So-
dirt and sand and clay.
So you think, which makes sense, as long as you're manipulating and not creating, then manifestation in a sense is not necessarily you trying to become a god. Let's say, hey, I'm thinking of creating this, doing this thing, but I'm still only going to do it within the confines of what Allah allows me to do. Then you're
Manipulation
still,
to an extent is witchcraft.
huh?
Manipulation to an extent is witchcraft. So it depends. At this point, it depends on what you're doing to manifest whatever you want. So now we got to get kind of detailed. If it's not just you praying for these things or asking Allah for these things, what actions are you doing to manifest whatever you want?
Other than prayer?
Other than prayer. If it's not just prayer, because at that point it's not manifestation. You being rewarded for the things that you pray for. You being blessed with the things that you pray for. It's not manifestation. You're not just creating whatever you want with your mind. You asking God for it, and God is providing, because God created everything. God can do that. You don't have the capacity to.
So
create.
definitely, of course. So definitely, yes.
Mhm.
In the literal sense, I'm sure manifestation in and of itself is creating something out of nothing and you trying to be, but is that you trying to become a god though? Like definitely you're, because I'm definitely on your side in this one. I think it's definitely from what the biblical perspective or from what the Quranic perspective is, it's definitely better to pray for things than create things out of nothing. But let me ask you this. If you're making a conscious choice, because creation is a choice, right? You choose to create something, which might be very vague and nuanced. But what I'm thinking is that if you go out of your way to create something that God wants you to create, are you still trying to become a God because you're doing it to serve God? Like, I want to create a mosque. I want to manifest a mosque, right? But God wants me to manifest a mosque. But God wants me to create a mosque. So I'm still serving God. Would that be trying to become a god at that point? What's the difference and what's the thing?
So when you say manifest, if you're not praying to God to
while you're manifesting,
to obtain the resources to build this mosque,
okay, that makes sense.
But instead you manifesting it by thinking on these things and using your own resources, I think you going against God. You being self-serving in that situation because you're not praying to God to guide you through this, or praying to Allah to guide you through this.
So essentially you're saying the difference is that you're trusting God as opposed to trying to deny Him. Exactly. So you're saying you're allowing God to channel His thing through you and allow Him to guide you instead of trying to be reliant on yourself, which makes you a god.
Yeah, for sure.
This stuff definitely does make a lot more sense because I do pray every night, and I do definitely manifest with good intentions. But regardless, I might whether doing it consciously or subconsciously, I might still be trying to become a god because I'm not asking God Himself to help me, which is kind of denying God in a sense. That does make a lot of sense. Yes.
I think it would be more beneficial, because I'm not saying that manifestation doesn't work and witchcraft doesn't work, because they are real. They do those things. Don't play with them. That going to the person that created everything, I think it's much more beneficial to go to the person that created everything. Yeah, like you said, for help.
But then again, so because you have to be conscious, as if you're not consciously aware that you're trying to be a god, does God not favor you? Essentially. So he says this is for people who are conscious.
Sin?
Would it be a subconscious sin? It might be.
Nah, I don't think the Bible or the Quran is specific about what can be a subconscious sin. So that's tough.
That is very tough. Let me see.
But
so do not attribute to Allah equals. So it does make sense that, hey, if you're relying on yourself and not relying on God, that you think you are a God. It makes sense to say that. So do not, that there is nothing similar to Him. So you not
can't be on the same level or even close. You gotta be not.
Well, the thing is, by the very definition, right? Because you're mortal, it doesn't matter even if you're subconsciously trying to be a god or you're trying to be a god, you're still mortal. So the question is, is it possible to even try to become a god with manifesting if you know that you're mortal? Which is the funny question. Because you being mortal automatically means that you don't have an attribute that God does, so you're not equal to Him regardless of what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.